Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and we are here once again on the second game of our first Best of 3 series here in the Piltovers Finest Finals, of course, to be played between Infuse Esports versus Explicit Esports. We're gonna be your shoutcasters. Ako po si Shinbu with the 1, 4, and I, and with me is Vulcan, ladies and gentlemen, and we just came in from Game 1. Infuse Esports takes that victory on that very explosive fight. Really, what are your thoughts coming in from that Game 1?
My thoughts is that that game was played for the placement of the third seed, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's clear to see that players, they really want to get to the PGS. They want to at least experience the pro playing game style, but judging from the game itself, it will be difficult for them. They have to adjust.
Yes.
If either of the team wins this game or the placement, they have to really readjust the way they play.
Oh, like on their own dito sa parang pacing na to ng Piltovers Finest, maybe it should be interesting the way they show, the way they play. Maybe it could be. But knowing at the back of your mind that these teams, after this Piltovers Finest Finals, ang makakalaban nila isang PGS teams. Kahit pa mga, alam mo yan, number 5, number 6 teams yon, hindi pa rin biro o yung kayang gawin nun against them. And I really hope that after this Piltovers Finest Finals is that they have some form of an upgrade really, because you know we have a clear idea, not just us but the viewers, them, tsaka yung mga players na rin mismo, of ano yung kaya dalahin ng isang PGS Pro team. That's the thing ayun yung meron sa ating promotionals, ayun yung meron sa ating Piltovers Finest, which is, ikaw ba, kaya mo ba talaga maging isang PGS team?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that the new teams from the last split, some of them got relegated sadly, but I just hope that this time the Piltovers Finest, the winners, like say for the third seed, they have to show what they've got once they get into the PGS, because once they're in the PGS, it's a different scenario, a different playground or battlefield where the veterans might just eat you up if you are not even prepared or you didn't brush up on your past games.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, into our schedule, as we mentioned, this is the game 2 na nga ng ating first Best of 3 series. Sa schedule din natin, makikita nyo po that on our match 2, that is the battle for the first seed and of course for the second seed. Between, mentioning nga, emphasizing that match 2 nga lang po, ladies and gents, between G1, Asian Arena, isa po dyan ang makakuha na nung relegated slot na iniwan ng Rebirth Gamer Sub. In a nutshell, isa po sa dalawang team na yan ang pwedeng maging pro game, bago nating pro team in the pro gaming series.
It's going to be an interesting match for match 2. To mention that that position will have a high stakes, but let's not really dwell on it too much. Let's get straight to the drafting phase.
Drafting phase, ladies and gentlemen. Once again in this game 2 ng Explicit Esports and of course Infuse Esports with a swap sa kanilang side dito sa ating game for the bans here. We got Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, Rengar, same ban pa rin na niro-roll ng Explicit Esports. Ang tinanggal lamang dito there was a Graves ban earlier. So they really don't want Piotr, his performance on the Kha'Zix. Malaking problema, especially with the follow-up and the way they do team fights. Parang ayaw ng Explicit Esports ngayon na merong kumi-clean up, na merong tumatalon at hinahanap kung sino man yung mga tumatakas na members or champions dito from that team fight ng Explicit Esports. But the Graves will be banned here by Infuse Esports. Doesn't want to deal with that, so we might be seeing, you know, a Rek'Sai maybe, an Elise maybe, or maybe, as we mentioned, may hover din sa Gragas for the jungle. Still curious, wala pa rin tayo nakikitang jungle reveal dito. Meron lang hover sa Gragas dito kanina. On the bans ng Infuse Esports, we get a Jarvan 4, Karma, and Graves. I will mention, removing a Jarvan 4 and a Karma characterizes your composition that it denies the enemy team, Explicit Esports here, a lot of engage. And also mentioning as well for the bot lane matchup that it would be a respect ban. Actually, if you account for the updates right now sa support, the most popular support would be the Lulu. But Thresh is on the rise, and so far, you know, the way Thresh contributes in a fight is still formidable. There's also the Malzahar pa rin, diba? Still the same mechanic as well. There might be nerfs on his non-ultimate kits, pero still very viable and gets locked in here by Infuse Esports. I'm really curious why did they ban the Karma here? A good info is that siguro you don't really want that very powerful kit by the Karma, which is like a free Sever ultimate. Well, ginagamit niya rin naman yung ultimate niya, which is the shield, which enchants your enemy team with a lot of movement speed. And that is explained here by the Varus pick up ng Infuse Esports. It puts a lot of safety on the Varus. You also remove the Jarvan. That's one champion minus para sa pwedeng mag-dive dito sa backline ng Infuse Esports. I'm really curious. They're actually building up a lot of damage coming in from the backline. Syndra hover, there's still a Cassiopeia over as well. And Malzahar. I would suggest the next pick up would be a CC-oriented champion and of course, their frontline. Kailangan nila ng frontline, of course. Just so there is consistent damage to be dealt here now from Infuse Esports. I'm still curious about the consistent damage that can come from the Varus, knowing that we know yung dating Varus ngayon, still popular right now. Yeah. But, you know, we don't know. Baka nga may si Saya na yung mag-offset dito sa Varus natin, sa setup natin. We'd still read onto the meta, of course. And do take note na hindi naman pwede palaruin si Saya and Rakan, newest champions from the 7.8 patch dito sa ating Piltovers Finals. Gonna be the, that's gonna be the brother of Maokai. We got that, jungler here early on para sa side ng Infuse Esports. Now discussing here Explicit Esports, they got a Trundle, steady frontline, very strong frontline, would have benefited really if there's a Karma. There's also the Sejuani. Now that's gonna be very threatening for Infuse Esports. A make or break skill which is gonna be very rewarding kapag tumama kahit sa dalawang champion lang. More so it touched the backline of Infuse Esports. You also got the LeBlanc here to disrupt this pseudo siege comp ng Infuse Esports and this composition na may good range ng Infuse Esports. So far, it's like I feel like Explicit Esports has another nice role in terms of drafting. Kanina we're giving the draft in their favor, but I'm really curious the execution nga kanina. Do take note here that there is a swap. Okay, a substitution pulled off by Explicit Esports. It's not gonna be predicted anymore. Playing in the top lane, we got XES Uomi. Interesting. So, if I'm not mistaken, that is the same Uomi who's been playing for UST, Tele Tigers. And of course, you got Atabs once again. Atabs actually has a very solid performance on that Lucian sa game kanina. I would not expect less on this Caitlyn as well. Very consistent champion, especially if you got an assurance of the Zyra. But of course, coming in from the front line, kung susugod ka mula sa front line. But of course, if you get dived on, which I'm really curious. Well, there is the Camille, despite the nerfs on her laning phase and actually the nerfs on the Hextech Ultimatum cannot be denied or hindi mo maitatawad na threat pa rin on this backline of Explicit Esports. Now, the Ivern here, that's what I'm really curious. Is the Ivern enough to serve as a nice front line here for Infuse Esports? We do know we got the Camille then that will serve as the front line. Pero ang galaw kasi ng Camille doesn't necessarily medyo ang konti ng kit niya that you could rely on to serve as like a pillar for your team or to protect your team. You'd expect the Camille to really dive and disrupt that backline as well by Explicit Esports. The thing about Explicit Esports though, in terms of their composition, is that ang laki nung nakasalalay din sa ultimate ni Sejuani. Yeah. One of the heavy win conditions here by Explicit Esports, and I do hope that Satella would really land those ultimates, make that crucial play, and as well as take the proper pathing with this Sejuani. The thing about Sejuani is she is actually a very mobile champion. There's the Arctic Assault for that mini dash. Pero that is considered like a mini initiate tool really. Like when you compare to the likes of a Kha'Zix or a Lee Sin, you have to be very, very accounting when you take that jungle path if ever you go for that gank. That's one. And of course, we still have to wait out. Do take note of Avaricia's performance kanina on the Fizz. Bad decisions here and there. But in terms of mechanics, the mechanics is there. Yeah,
but not to mention, the lineup of Explicit looks pretty predictable. The setup is going to be relying on the Zyra for the knockup or the Sejuani's Glacial Prison. But I hope for Infused's sake, they can actually read their movements very easily, because picking up a composition just like Sejuani and Zyra and a Trundle, it's very easy to read. Whereas Infuse side, they're going for more of a late game lane composition, because Camille's been nerfed in the early phase of the game. Yes. Heavily nerfed because of the Hextech Ultimatum. It's now 2.5 seconds, not anymore 4. In my opinion, that was pretty overpowered, not to mention
the sweeping
the sweeping blade.
No, that is on Yasuo. But, you know, that kick by Camille, of course.
Yeah,
I think it's something Hextech sweep if I'm not mistaken. Pero
yeah, but regardless, the sustain has been removed from the minions. So Camille won't be that strong in the laning phase. Compared to Trundle, he does have the King's Tribute, where he has more sustain compared to Camille.
Indeed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really curious as well, actually. Like, predictable. Again, ayun nga yung threat. Mas dynamic yung comp na to. I would say. Ang dynamic lamang dito para sa Explicit Esports would be this LeBlanc That's the thing. And I'm really curious if it might be better if there's a different support pick up here for explicit esports. This Zyra, actually, you can fight a Zyra as long as you have good range. And Zyra actually heavily counters. If I'm be accounting kung sino yung pinaka naka-counter dito sa Infuse Esports, it's only one champion really, which is the Camille with the engage. Kasi Strangle Thorns is very rewarding on stopping engages, ladies and gentlemen. But in chasing down targets or in trying to catch siege champions, I would really recommend Strangle Thorns kasi ang daming delay niyan. Hindi mo yan basta-basta ilalagay sa harapan. And right now, you know, the range of the piercing arrow and even the movement speed of a Cassiopeia plus the Twin Fang stacks, the Twin Fang procs, there's enough time for them to really sidestep that Strangle Thorns. Now, I'm really curious, what if there might be a different champion? Someone that is capable of not just spinning for this Caitlyn, but also picking up targets. Maybe a Thresh. That's one thing I'd say. Because accounting for that, you got the LeBlanc, you got the Caitlyn. In a way, okay pa naman yung damage niya right now. Pero if you account for that Zyra, ang taas talaga ngayon ang dinadala na damage ng Explicit Esports. So that's one condition now for Infuse Esports. What they would do is that account na all they need is to fight from a distance. All they need is to fight from a distance and anticipate the jump there by the LeBlanc. That's the thing. They really need to not allow themselves to be disrupted by Avarisha here, which I trust in terms of mechanical skill is very capable of doing that. But again, kanina sa game 1, his decision making has been off. So that's one thing that they can capitalize. That's one thing Infuse Esports can capitalize. And I do, you know, this is gonna be very different. What happened from that game 1 is like flash to die. Snowballing out of control, really. Renek Bay, ladies and gentlemen, you know, just stomping on that rise. This is a very, very different game in a sense that pinalitan talaga. Totally, I was thinking there might be a different adjustment to be done here by Explicit Esports. What they did is they really swapped out their top laner and OWOM is gonna be playing that one. And I'm really curious kasi as far as I know, as far as I've seen Uwomi play, if Uwomi, you know, from the Tele Tigers, he's playing support, right? Trundle is very different. You could like put Trundle in the support position, pero it has a very different mechanics compared to the likes of the Nami, which Uwomi has been playing. So I'm really curious. I'm really curious how he will handle that lane, especially against the Camille, you know? Camille and Trundle, it's an interesting matchup. What are your thoughts for that?
For me, the Camille will lose heavily against the Trundle. No doubt about that. Because of the
nerf of the sustain?
Not just from the sustain, but from the dueling capabilities of Trundle. And not to mention, Camille is a champion that relies on terrain. And Trundle can actually cancel the hook shot mid-flight because of the Ice Pillar.
Indeed.
Not to mention, if Camille goes in with the Hexen Ultimatum, Trundle has that subjugate.
Yes.
So, what happens there is that something that Camille started a fight, you don't end up finishing.
Yes.
So in the end, Camille will just have to hug the turret. So. Not even duel against a Trundle. Even level 3, Camille cannot even face the Trundle.
Yes. So,
and if ever the keystone of the Trundle is a Fervor of Battle, that's going to spell really bad news for Camille. Not to mention the heavy nerfs that happen in patch 7.7.
So there's like a signal that with that kind of matchup, Camille versus Trundle, where Trundle wins the duel, we could be expecting, you know, the way Camille would play it. Lalo pa yung laning phase niya is nerf when it comes to sustain.
Heavily nerf.
Yeah, there would be heavily nerf. There would be like shock-in na magaganap dito ni Trundle. It falls now on the jungler.
Yeah, you won't expect that a Camille that's very low on HP uses the sweeping blade for, let's say, 5 minions. You get like 200 health back. That's not the case anymore for a Camille. So, what the player has to do...
That's OP, no?
That's very imbalanced, in my opinion. Not to mention the sustain. It's nice they gave the same treatment to Camille's sustain with the Darius. But not to mention, Trundle's King's Tribute has a long range.
Yes.
So, even if he gets outpushed, let's say he's very low on health, he's on the turret, he's going to regenerate quickly. So I think Camille will have a really hard time.
And if Camille dived him under turret, Ice Pillar is very punishing.
Ice Pillar, not to mention
as well. Not to mention yung nananakaw din na AD ng champ dito. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we're using the animation here. Coming in from GPL. A nice view of the Summoner's Rift here on the Game 2 in this Best of 3 series for the first match of the Piltovers Finest Finals. You can see there that an Infernal Drake is set to spawn into the Rift. So para sa inyo, sa mga viewers natin, sino sa palagay nyo ang mananalo? Will it be Explicit Esports or will it be Infuse Esports? Do take note that in this Best of 3 series, 1-0 na po ang Infuse Esports.
So let's see if Infused Esports will secure their place in the PGS with a 2-0 sweep, or will it be Explicit coming back from their loss to make it a 1-1 to carry into the game 3 of the best of 3.
So accounting for the first score items here, first build up, nothing really interesting. Maybe some of our viewers would find it weird that our ADs are picking up early long swords, but that, guys, is one of the core metas right now. Really running from 7.6, if I'm not mistaken, until 7.8.
Yeah, it's a very gold efficient start where LoL has been, the game pace has been sped up. So it's normal to see that our marksmen will really try to hit their main items as fast as they
ADs
can.
agad, no? Despite, you know, sometimes marksman rushing Rune once, okay pa rin na makakuha ka ng longsword, because actually longsword easily builds up to that scimitar for the Blade of the Ruined King early pickup meta ngayon for the ADs. And so, status here for the bot lane. That pressure na siniset up ngayon dito kanina na it would be wise for Pero to think that Dawn would be there. He's trying to tag. Where is this Malzahar? That's a level 2 set up here. Na nakuha ka agad ng Infused Esports. All they need is to actually get 2 more minions on this second wave, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if can they make it all in. Kasi they're setting up the early game harass for that level 2 big spike. So, that's the condition for the bot lane. Meanwhile, here in the mid lane, of course, on frontline setup, I'm very curious why did Avarisha take that one. Maybe gauging how will he win the trade-up. Level 2 spike gets here by Dawn. Accounting for the summoner spells. Actually, Jizo. Let's call him Jizo. Actually got punished there.
Yeah, heavily punished.
Yeah. Would be expecting from a Zyra. Very likely receive a lot of damage coming in from the Zyra, and maybe even the Peacemaker of this Caitlyn. So that's one mechanic gun, that's one stage gun in this laning phase. The level 2 spike, but the poke is still there. Dawn, interestingly, pick up an early Malefic Visions. Not gonna go for the Voidlings, not gonna go for the Q. As far as I know, there's a nerf on the Voidlings.
Yeah, it's patch several to go on in the mid lane.
Oh, gonna be a trade
Yellow used the cleanse, he flashed away, followed by, he also flashed in. So that would be a first blood. A very easy first blood for the mid lane of Explicit Esports. But we did see that the Ivern was spotted in the Raptor camp and instead gives a kill to Yado. So it was a 1-for-1 trade, but we know that the first blood goal has 100. See how it will itemize him better.
Yeah, do take note that Ivern has a very small damage, but Satella
just skirmishes around the riverside. We're seeing a response from Umomi, but Party Kyo is very low on health. There is a slow from Mr. Juani plus the Ice Pillar for sing out his flash.
I'm very curious about that one. Ivern willing to take that duel. Again, isa sa mga pinaka-core description ni Ivern, ang baba ng damage niya. Even if you got that passive underbrush, that you get more attack speed, that's the problem. I was curious if can he win the trade against Satella kasi kumonect yung shield damage on Satella. But clearly that's a big disadvantage there by Pyo, but maybe gonna go for the gank in the bot.
Pyo connects his vigorously. Let's see how it goes in the bot lane. There is Dawn, really low, gets ignited. Will the Voidlings finish it up? No, he survives. And looking at Pero, very low on health. That'll be a kill for G0-0. He's very low on health too, but you can see there's an outplay happening right here in the brush side. Not spotted, but the piercing arrow will secure his double kill.
I like the way Atoms played that. One did not just gauge that trap. I mean that caliber net. In a sense that he nag-caliber net siya papunta sa Q, but hold that thought.
Umi very low. He does not have enough LHP. Overstaying the lane, giving a kill to the Camille.
Battle mechanics, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I want to discuss kanina yung play na ginagawa ni Atabs Dawn. Did not directly escape, knowing that he can still take that fight. Knowing na hindi ganun kataas yung damage ng Ivern, and he will get a spike if he stays on the brush. Gets the crit procs mula dun sa Caitlyn and maybe get a 2-for-1. Had it been na yung caliber net niya na i-redirect lang on not on, I guess it's kind of predicted really by Jizo, yung piercing arrow na yon mula dun to connect after that caliber net by Caitlyn. He could have landed that crit shot and get another hit or maybe a Peacemaker on Ivern with the 2-for-0, but that's not the case right now. And 5 minutes into the game, this is Infused Esports lead in terms of kill, not much in the globe. So, accounting for the itemizations here, that actually brings Jisoo on a very, very early scimitar. And
the Bilgewater Cutlass?
Yeah. Yes, sorry. Bilgewater Cutlass. The scimitar is for the Mercurial. Builds from the XES. And here, that's only a Vampiric Scepter for this Caitlyn.
Yeah, he did get 2 kills in the bot lane, so that will really transition to a very early itemization for sustain, the slow, not to mention the damage in trade-offs. We know that Caitlyn is not the most mobile ADCs, but in the mid lane we're seeing some trade-off. Here comes Pyo for his second visit. It does connect, but there will be no follow-up on their turret.
Very dangerous if you go on their turret, especially Avaricia has that ethereal change. You let the crowd control on you. So again, there is still that. The thing about Caitlyn is she's about consistency in terms of DPS. So kahit alam natin na merong damage advantage si Jisoo dito, but not this time.
Very low. Thorn has been placed to slow down the duo bot of Infused Esports, but we saw how Atabs was playing with the trap, but let's hope that he conserves his mana.
Ivern is on his way.
If it matters. So right now, in the bot lane, we can see Pyo responding in. But here comes Stella with the Sejuani. There's a slow. Lost the bind, connecting onto Pyo. A kill has been picked up, but she is 100. Chugging at the potion. Pyo lives to see another day, but here comes the LeBlanc, forcing in another kill. Now Dawn is very low. There's the Ignite, a double kill for the LeBlanc, and a trade-off in the top lane, where Flash to Die is really sticking in onto Uomi. We're seeing that Uomi is actually losing in terms of trade-offs against Camille.
Camille is very willing to take the trade, picking up at early Sheen. That's 5-2. Uomi with the force in building defensively early on. No obvious lead for him right now in this top lane. And going back in this bottom lane, I'm really impressed by the showing here of Avaricia connecting that ethereal chains despite a lot of minions blocking him, you know, as he chased down Dawn on this Malzahar. So again, it's kind of expected really. Every lane's kind of going south for Explicit Esports. Same story for game 1. And Avaricia, once again, having a nice role in the lane.
INF connects onto Atabs, a huge burst of damage, but Dawn picked up the kill instead of GS100. So that's going to spell a bit of a delay on itemization. Let's hope that he does get the port in time if he wants to really control the bot lane. But going to the top lane, I can't see why Uomi is actually having a hard time with the Camille. Yes, a Trundle does have a hard time 3-6, but not to the extent that it's 0-2. But it's also going to be very hard, seeing that he did pick up the red buff. So Uomi really has to wait for his spike.
Yeah, he has to wait for his spike. Right now, with this kind of itemizations, Uomi may have to wait for a mistake from Flash to Die. Because Flash to Die is very willing to deal damage against Uomi.
Si Parpyo,
that would magnetize Satella in the top lane. But the problem there is Flash to Die is already intuitive enough to pick up a control ward just to scout this Sejuani. The thing about Sejuani as well is that when you have a very one-dimensional champion na nakarely heavily sa isang ultimate, it's very rewarding if you know his position. Kasi that means there's a lot of window and time bago makakuha yung teammates niya ng ultimate mula kay Sejuani. This
is... comes. In terms of damage, we can see that Uomi is not having a hard time because the Subjugate is on to Flash to Die, but it will run up really quickly. Let's see an outplay happening up. There's a Flash stun away. There's a Flash in, and Uomi trading up with a 1-2 KDA. He does pick up his first kill in the top lane.
And that is the mistake, but might be a mistake as well by Avaricia here.
Oh, there's the Glacial Prison missing, so instead of a stun, there is the slow. Pyo left alone by his mid laner. Here comes Sparrow, but we can see that Avarice is dealing a bit of damage here, but the slow coming from Stella is just too much. But there is the GC100 from the bot lane. There will be a kill secured. Rampage, a double kill. So that would be an overcommitment for Explicit Esports.
And it's going to be Infused Esports beating up in the game of response. Despite Yato having no ultimate and nothing to actually throw against Avaricia there, as well as with Satella, they still win the trade with response that comes in from the bot lane. Does Atabs enough firepower to wave clear this mid lane? This is clearly going down in the hands of Infused Esports. Let's see what can be done here by Explicit Esports. If Infused Esports recalled, it might be a small window for Explicit Esports to take the Infernal Drake. Let's see.
A lot of burst coming from the LeBlanc. Avarita looking at the atomization would be going for the Hextech Gunblade.
They're gonna take the Infernal.
Yeah, taking the Infernal would be a
nice,
really wise choice, but I don't see any members. So this would be actually a reset. So this gives Explicit Esports a bit of a breathing space for them, but knowing that Uomi did reach the level 6, so he will have an easier time dealing with the Camille. But if he played it safer, he wouldn't have given the Camille 2 kills.
They should have taken the Infernal. They should have known that the rest of the members of Infuse Esports would recall. Really curious, maybe accounting that hindi nila kaagad nakita si Pio doon, so baka papalik na siya. That's the main reason kung bakit hindi kinuha yung Infernal dito. But again, we are back in the top lane. And as we mentioned, kanina may malaking lead na nakuha si Flash to Die doon. Kasi yung 1v1 duel early on, kung saan medyo even pa talaga yung mga picks, nanalo si Flash to Die. But cannot be denied that in terms of scaling, it falls on this Trundle.
A surprise attack from Avarita onto Yato. The Ignite is onto him. It will be enough. Here comes Stella. There is the Petrifying Gaze, an outplay, but a trade-off did happen. Stella picks up the kill. There's the Hex. It will demand him, plus taking turret hits, giving a kill to Flash to Die.
Very nice respawn coming in from the members ng Infuse Esports, the jungler plus the top laner with the mid lane gun and the jungler itself gun. Instantly, ito, kung kinuha lang sana ng Explicit Esports itong Infernal Drake kanina, hindi itong malaking snowball para sa Infuse Esports. But that doesn't seem to be the case as Infuse Esports 12 minutes to 24 seconds into the game secures, maybe 25 seconds or 27 secures their Infernal Drake. And that delayed because ang baba talaga ng damage ng Ivern.
Pharaoh was very low. He did try and ward out the Dragon Pit, but at the Call of Guard, he does flash and heal. So 2 summoners down for Atabs. Not to mention Pharaoh does not have a heal, flash, and Ignite. So what was Explicit Esports doing? They didn't have any objectives to contest. Why bother checking out the Dragon Brush? Yeah, why bother knowing that the objective is gone? Why risk yourself in a more delayed fashion? So
knowing there's a Malzahar and Varus as well.
Yeah, that's something that they have to change and not repeat their mistakes. This will be their last chance to fight for your spot. If they lose, they will not be inserted in the seeding.
Yes. They have a very tight spot of facing the number 5 team. TNC. That's the thing.
Which is very difficult for them.
Yeah,
so
I knowing TNC.
See that?
Really a good game. Really a good team from PGS. Now in the top lane.
3 members onto Uomi. He subjugates Flash Die, but there is Daisy with a knockout. Oh, that would be a missed knockout, but Daisy dealing enough damage. If he does take Daisy down, he might regenerate health, but that's not the case. Flash to Die. Go for the Trundle and takes up the kill.
That's because ng burst damage dito ni Flash to Die. Every skill that he uses easily procs that Shin with the added damage coming in from that Tiamat. So steadily, this is another early game in the hands of Infuse Esports. I'm really curious what happens here in favor of Explicit Esports once they group up. Once everybody from them group up as a team. Kanina, ang ganda ng showing nila nung mas nauna silang magsama-sama against Infuse Esports. But
yeah, I mean,
right now
Explicit Esports, they have to play it collectively. They have to group up, play it very objective-wise.
Capitalize on that sedge.
Yeah, not kill-oriented much. They have strong engages at the same time, very predictable engages. But if ever Explicit Esports wants to make it to the seeding they want, they have to fight back.
Yeah, the thing about a predictable comp is you use it on unpredictable times. An example would be grouping up in the laning phase. You know, that's gonna be very rewarding because actually Sejuani is a capable champion of tower diving. As long as you really connect that ult, it's very rewarding. And she has enough defensive stats to withstand the damage from this turret. So that's one form of surprise na pwedeng i-pull off dito ng Explicit Esports. Kasi nga, pag pumasok yung mid-game, unpredictable na nung comp nila. And right now, itong early game na to, itong laning phase na to, Flash to Die, once again, same story with this Renekton earlier, influencing the other lanes. But Uomi is there.
KD 410 swap. Does have to do that, but gets in a kill. It's not possible, and that would be the dive. But will there be a kill? That's a flash burned by Avarita, and we can see Stella just tanking the turn hits for him. But you can see that Yellow is making his approach. Stella is very low. He gets picked up very easily, and now Yato missing the flash with the petrifying gaze to not protect the turret. So without any flash, can he win this trade? He does. He picks up the double kill. Now Perry's all alone, very low. The plants are dealing a lot of damage. Plus the minions. He goes down, giving Barrow the shotgun goal.
Why did Yato commit to that fight? Now I'm really curious, but at least that buys enough time. The thing here is that Avarisha was forced to stay in the bot lane, warding off 3 members dito ng Infuse Esports. Knowing with the life bar na ang tataas pa, they can easily rotate and not recall, drop on other lanes. And pressure is on against Explicit Esports. So, with that, actually, maaga-aga talaga tong momentum na nakuha ng Infuse Esports. With this kind of showing or early game advantage, pwede silang maka-set up ng napakagandang vision on the blue side jungle mismo against Explicit Esports and open up for maybe a cheesy early game Baron. That's one, because accounting for this one, though Ivern was removed, Ivern is not in the hands of Caitlyn. They got nice DPS in the hands of the Cassiopeia and the Varus. That's one. And actually, there's a lot of damage na nanggagaling na rin mismo kay Flash to Die. But that's just one scenario. Hypothetical situation right now. Atom's in a bad spot. What is that kind of positioning? But there's the Caliber net. I wonder if Yato has a flash. He could have taken.
He does not have his flash. It's on cooldown. Not to mention his petrifying gaze is ready, but he does not have the flash. So, not to mention Uomi on the Trundle. Trundle excels in the laning phase the most, but when it comes to team fights, he is close to nothing compared to a Camille in a team fight. So, the fact that Uomi did not capitalize Trundle's strength in the laning phase, it just goes to show right now. 1-4 KDA with giving Flash to Die lots of room to snowball, and right now there is the Jennifer connecting onto Adarita, but there is a counter attack from Explicit Esports, giving a kill to the mid laner. A shotgun goal to mention.
Yeah, AD for the Reap Herald. Right now, pupunta si Pero doon sa Reap Herald, pero hindi niya na rin aabutan. Let's see if a fight breaks out here on the Reap Herald side of the river.
It would be a smart choice not to fight.
No objective.
Yeah, no objective. Not to mention, we're seeing a lineup for Explicit Esports where they rely on heavy terrain, but right now Flash to Die gets denied with a nice pillar. So,
and they have no vision actually on the red side jungle kasi ng Infuse, so they're not really willing to go all in on that Camille, but that is going to be Flash to Die.
Going in onto Avarita, that's a very huge burst of damage coming in. Exit ultimatum onto Barrow, he cannot escape. Ice Pillar to down. That to dodge, I mean, the Ice Pillar, you saw how it was jumbled up Camille's movement.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a surprise, like, what?
Pero he actually plans on taking Pero there. So like 2 ticks in front of the Trundle.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure.
If you couldn't escape, it would be a wise choice
just
for
deal damage.
Yeah,
okay.
Deal damage and try to see the kill, but here comes as
I have a feeling he can escape because his movement speed
he did steal the Drake. He flashes out. So what a nice steal, but the escape was bumped into the Arctic Assault was not enough. So the flash was expended for the Ocean Drake.
Again, going back for the top lane, I have a feeling he can escape. That's the thing, because the grasping roots, it can be easily sidestepped by the Camille. And he just went all in. My guess is that he might be thinking there must be a responder or maybe buy time for his teammates. But that is... I feel like Flash to Die could just snowball this game. That's already a 6-1-0 kaninang Camille. Now it handed on 6-2-0. That's actually a bounty given in the hands of Explicit Esports. It's a matter of building defensively for Flash to Die just to win this duels and just to be an irritating element against Explicit Esports. Which, he actually got the chain vest and actually the chain mail and of course that Negatron cloak. Oh yeah, building up to that GA.
We're seeing that Pyo respond to the top lane. There's teleport coming in. Uomi will be joining his ally, but it will be a 3 versus 2 fight. Pyo taking a lot of damage, but right now we can see that he's 100 untouched. Perfect positioning. He does pick up a kill onto Uomi.
Yeah.
So the teleport has been wasted. Not to mention, Uomi gets taken down. So a very bad trade for Explicit Esports. Not to mention
leaving that Caitlyn Ataps to deal with this Camille. Again, Camille is designed to dive the Caitlyn in the backline, not to duel her. It's gonna be bad for Explicit Esports, as you mentioned. Right now, good thing we got a lot of sizable minutes bago pumasok pa itong ating Infernal Drake.
There is Averita trying his luck with the Camille. It did not work out for him the first time, so he will be paying the price. There is a slow for the Gunblade. Here comes Barrow with assist and an ace in the hole.
Yeah.
Will secure a kill, but instead, not for the ADC, it would be Barrow, the support.
At least to kite against this Camille, knowing na ang gap closer na lang din naman ay yung kanyang grappling hook. Pero the danger there is, what if na-burst siya? I really want to see that replay if nagamit ni Camille yung kanyang Chamat proc just to burst this, just to burst LeBlanc. Kasi if there's a Chamat proc plus auto attack, I think that should be enough burst really to kill Avarisha and his LeBlanc. Right now, we are still yet to see, of multiple target ultimate from Sejuani.
Like what I said in the drafting phase, it's a very obvious and predictable engage. So we're seeing that GS100 does pick up the QSS. So if ever a clash does happen, the CCs that Explicit wanted to bring to a team fight will be almost useless, negated. We know that Sejuani does not deal enough damage, not to mention Uomi as a Trundle, not an excellent team player in a team fight compared to Camille, but here's the replay and what happened in the bot lane.
Actually, yan, observe natin yung, kasi isang hit na lang yung kailangan sana ni, ni Flash Today doon, or isang skill and one auto attack. This is a very curious engage. There's a flash in. That's the thing. To actually land and connect the crowd control. Okay. That sweeping. That kick by Camille, had it connected, that should be rewarding.
If he hold on to his flash, he would have secured a kill onto the LeBlanc.
But and I did not see the Yamat back.
Yeah, but
knowing
that you missed all your skill shots, it wouldn't be wise to go away from the team fight. But right now, we're seeing that Avarisha gets taken down by Varus, but right now Pharaoh trying his best to ward off the members of it, but he does catch the seed and hit road, and there comes Stella engaging all alone. There is the 2 redemption proc, very nice heal, and that will transition towards the Baron for Infuse.
Actually, better by Pure. If there's one player aside from Avarisha that is actually worthy of a lot of highlights at this best of 3 series, it's Pure as well. Kaninang nilalaro niya is Kha'Zix, and Ivern and Kha'Zix is a very, very different mechanic as a jungler. And the way he landed and used that redemption, really nice. But it's also a bad decision as well coming in from Satella, engaging alone.
Engaging alone and no one to follow up. Not to mention, we did see that Flash Die was pushing the bot lane. So the Baron is gone, but right now Yato healing a lot of damage. He does cleanse out of the stun, but it's Atabs picking up the kill. Avarisha very low, but we can see that a 3-man knockoff from the Strong of Thorns, but will it be enough? Flash to die. He's the only member with the Guardian Angel, and feeling constant damage. He does go in for a dive, gets negated by Stella. Now Pio is very low. He's trying to get away, but Flash to die gets slowed by the Spiller with a chomp, securing the kill, proccing the Guardian Angel, but right now he's revived. There is Uomi alone, no follow-up from his team, and there is a dive onto the ADC, and the jungler, Stella, with the Hex Ultimate, and there is the collapse under the turret, with Daisy soaking up the damage. That would be an ace.
In exchange of what? Man, nicely done there by Infuse Esports. Had it been that Atabs was there, or hindi siya kagad yung unang
flash into a chain of corruption, does connect for Infuse Esports. So right now, that would be the second ace proccing right now. We can only see that Avarisha is the only one left to defend. We're seeing Pharaoh's death timer 4 seconds in.
Yeah, they need the tank to stop this push.
Yeah, 7 seconds.
Avarisha.
I'm not pretty sure if they can come back for this one. We do see that Avarisha does get the revive, pressure fountain, but there is the double redemption. So that would be a sustained fight, but we're seeing that Uomi is sticking to Varus. He's going to the back line, trying catching GS100, but he is just kiting way too much, and his allies are just peeling for him. So the star player and the double kill for the mid laner Yato. So that would be a win-win.
Should be the game, ladies and gentlemen.
Infused Esports.
2-0, and they're gonna be facing Team Manila Eagles, number 16 in our BGS, and that leaves Explicit Esports to face the top team, you know, on the 4 available teams na magaling mula sa PGS, TNC. TNC Esports, ladies and gentlemen. And observing this game, yep, it's actually a mechanical showing by Infuse Esports. Do take note that Infuse Esports freshly came din naman sa PGS after getting relegated. You know, they have their eyes set on making a comeback. It's gonna be
when did it get relegated?
Infuse Esports very likely on 2016 summer, if I'm not mistaken. Ayan, ang ating Infuse Esports. They are not present in the 2017 spring. That's one. So, you know, Hechizo nga, diba? There's the acquiring of Imperial Pro team of Hechizo coming in from Infuse Esports once 2017 spring started. So, there's that. We do know the capabilities of Infuse Esports. They are actually a team fight pro team. Yeah, yun yung laging tendency nila. Naalala ko yung Infuse Esports when there was the meta of Amawo kay Seaver initiate, panahon ng mga Azir. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the damage dealt here. The skill of Avarisha still reflects after all these years na paglalaro ng LoL. Nandiyan pa rin siya.
Yeah, that's what happens when you pick a top
flash to die.
Yeah. 8,000 damage is not too much. You should have abused in your laning phase, but that was not the case. So, leaving Flash to die to snowball in the top lane with the Camille.
Yes, and actually, accounting overall for this game, it's like there's really a lot of stuff na kailangang i-work out dito ng Explicit Esports. Again, mentioning that Camille should not be allowed to snowball, especially facing Trundle in the mid lane.
Yeah, Trundle pick up against the Camille is not something you want to do. Not to mention, Camille did get nerfed in patch 7.7, but the pickoff against the Camille was the bad part.
Yeah,
she's heavily nerfed, very weak laning phase, and I don't think the Trundle really capitalized Trundle's really strong laning phase and early start. So I think that's why Explicit won that game.
Atab's performance as well. Atab's performance very different mula sa performance niya nung Lucian. What I find here is that maybe kinailangan ng mas kailangan pa ng Explicit Esports dun sa game na yun, ng Enchanter na support niya. Kanina, we got a multiple knock-up mula doon sa Stranglethorns. Pero what happened there is actually a directive where Zyra here is set to help the other lanes. And one fatal mistake was actually Atab's to be sent on to deal with the Camille.
Yeah, if just the top lane Wami really did his best, they really would have won that game. Really just denying the Camille snowball, but that wasn't the case. So that's what happened. That's where things went really wrong for the top lane.
Yung fight sa mid lane, kung nandun lang din si Atab's, diba? And the way Atab's was caught up in the mid lane as well. Ayun, so this kind of positioning, ayun yung kailangan, or ayun, yung positioning yun yung kailangan i-work on dito ni Atabs. I mean, for this game, and I mean, on that Caitlyn, I think it would be a different story kung Lucian yun, or it would be a different story kung Enchanter support na may body lagi nakasama si Atabs dito, because Caitlyn deals a lot of crazy damage. All you need is to peel for her. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be Infuse Esports. Hindi pa po sila pasok sa PGS. Rather, ang kakalabanin nila would be Team Manila Eagles, and Explicit Esports still has a chance to fight and get a slot in the PGS facing TNC. That's the thing. Again, as we mentioned from that Game 1, Game 2, I think there's a lot to be improved here by these two teams. Lalo pat kaharapin nila ay PGS teams, especially with the salary introduced here. I think it cannot be denied there's an elevated level of play mula sa ating mga PGS Pro teams. So now we proceed on our second match, G1 versus Asian Arena. Ladies and gentlemen, the difference for this fight is that kung sino manalo dito in this best of 3 series, insta, mahatik mga kaibigan, easy Bugatti, magiging PGS team. So sino kaya sa dalawa? G1 or Asian Arena? Two teams na lagi na rin nasa Piltovers finals and actually good contender in becoming a PGS Pro team. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been our match 1. Once again, congratulations for Infuse Esports and mad props for Explicit Esports. Kami po yung naging shoutcaster for this game. I am Shinbu with a 1 for an I, and of course with me is my partner Vulcan. This is the first match concluded for the Piltovers finals. We'll see you on the second match.
Mad knockoff from his opponent, but will it be enough? Flash to die is the only member with a Guardian Angel and dealing constant damage. He does go in for a dive, gets negated by Stella. Now Pyo is very low, he's trying to get away, but Flash to die gets slowed by the Escaler with a chop, securing the kill, blocking the Guardian Angel, but right now he's revived. Darius and roaming alone. No follow-up from his team, and Darius attacks onto the ADC, and the jungler Stella with the Hexstone rebound, and there is the collapse under the turret with Daisy soaking up the damage. Now again, you see Barrel's death timer, 4 seconds then.
Yeah, they need the tank to stop this boost.
Yeah, 7 seconds. I'm not pretty sure if they can come back for this one. You see that Average does get the revive, pressure fountain, but there is double redemption. So that would be a stage 5. We're seeing that Wally is sticking to the virus. He's going to the back line, trying to catch GS100, but he's just catching way too much, and his allies are just stealing for him. So the star player and the double kill for the mid laner Yako. So that would be a win-win.
Should be the game, ladies and gentlemen.
Infused Esports.
2-0, and they're gonna be facing